Welcome to News Review. Voters in Britain and the Netherlands have cast their ballots in the elections to the European Parliament, which will guide the EU's policy for the next 5 years. More than 400 million people across the 28-nation bloc are eligible to elect 751 members of the European Parliament. Opinion polls predict a significant advance for far-right nationalist parties across Europe, especially in countries like Hungary, Italy, and Germany. This is the 9th European Parliament elections, which, since they began in 1979, the European Parliament is one of the legislative bodies of the European Union and the only one whose members are directly elected by EU citizens. The elected MEPs serve 5-year terms, which will start this July. Now, time to discuss the issue a little bit. Joining me in this news review will be Robert Inlikish, our correspondent in London, and also we'll have Stavros Mavroudeas, professor of political economy from the University of Macedonia, joining us out of Athens. Good to see you both. Let's go to London first. Robert, the UK has started taking part in the elections. Tell us about the mood there in Britain.
Well, of course, the mood is one of sort of frustration and also dissatisfaction with the current status quo. The government has largely, in the eyes of the public, failed the public in delivering Brexit or any alternative to Brexit. Of course, Theresa May is set to perhaps resign in the coming days. We might see Boris Johnson taking her place. So the government seems to be fragmented. The Brexit Party is doing the best in the polls, and it is expected to do the best in these EU elections. Also, what we've seen is that today there's been various reports of EU citizens living in the UK that haven't been able to vote. This is another big thing that will be prominent in the media, I presume, in the coming days. So the sentiment here is that people are going out to vote in protest, really. We're going to see protest votes, and we've seen far-right types, figures who have been given a platform also to run in these elections.
Over to Athens now. Professor, some people argue that this election is a kind of test for far-right populism. Do you agree?
Yes and no. It's first of all a test for the European Union. The European Union is in a conundrum. It is troubled by its own economic and political contradictions. It has not been friendly to its people, but only to European elites. And this unfriendliness and to the very people that inhabit each area foments reactions. Now the reactions in at least Central and Western and Northern Europe take the form of right-wing movements. There is a difference in Southern Europe, with the possible exception of Italy nowadays. In Southern Europe, the reaction to the EU usually takes a left-wing tendency. That is, there exist left-wing parties and movements that are against the European Union, and these parties and movements usually take more of the Euroscepticist or anti-Euro vote. So first there is the crisis, the economic and mainly the political crisis of the European Union. This foments reactions. The reactions come from the popular strata, from the people, from the masses, not from the elites, mainly at least. And these reactions from the people in the Northern and Western Europe take the form of nationalism, which is a very dangerous thing. In Southern Europe, it takes the form mainly of left-wing anti-European Union movements and parties. Now, regarding the central apparatus of the EU, it would be a test. An increase of the anti-European Union voices and trends either from the extreme right wing or from the left wing, would surely put the European integration project into dispute.
Mm-hmm. Now back to London. Robert, there has been the emergence of far right has been happening in the past decades. Also in the UK, you are facing it. Some people are mentioning Mr. Farage, for instance. Let's talk about a little bit on that and the situation, the status of the far right in the UK.
Well, of course, Farage isn't the only one. Of course, there's people like Tommy Robinson and popular YouTubers who have aligned themselves with far-right views and are regarded as Islamophobes and other things that have been able to run in these elections, and many suspect that types like Tommy Robinson may actually win. The reason for this is because the government has not delivered on anything, really. It hasn't delivered for either side, and really Brexit has become an issue which has turned into right versus left politics. It's turned into immigration as a primary thing to discuss here, and a lot of people are frustrated at the lack of initiative by the government to try and get anything done. So people are going to parties, far-right leaders, YouTubers, whoever promises to deliver them something because they have no faith in their government. And at least that's what's been interpreted by most of the media here, that people are really just dissatisfied with what's going on, and their reaction has been to go over to people on the far right and seek solace in their views and rally behind them. So that's really why we see the rise of people like obviously the Brexit Party under Nigel Farage and the others like the far-right Islamophobe Tommy Robinson.
Now, back to Athens. Stavros, you see that in Germany we have AfD, in Europe we have Marine Le Pen, in Italy you have Prime Minister Salvini, and there are some also other cases in Hungary, for instance, and elsewhere. So, but these are signs of emergence of far-rightists. And so what kind of a future can you envisage and predict for Europe?
Well, the future of the European Union is bleak. It has failed to deliver to the people of Europe. It has delivered only to the European elites. And given the current conditions, that is the economic malaise and the political, the increase of geopolitical conflicts, these contradictions of the European Union project have come to the fore. So its future is not the best, to say the least. Now, if its demise would not be probably something very bad. If its demise comes from a right-wing nationalist surge, like the one observed in the Western and Northern Europe, then this would lead to increased conflicts and possibly wars. If it comes from a renaissance, a rebirth of popular movements, left-wing and progressive popular movements that would give back to the people their sovereignty and give back to the people their management of their own affairs, their democracy, then this is a promising course. Now, which will prevail, it's open to the historical conjecture.
Do you have any prediction?
At least for the short term, in the Western Europe, the nationalist extreme right wing would score would increase its leverage. In Southern Europe, I think and I hope that things would go differently. That is, anti-European Union feelings and sentiments and reactions would go to progressive and left-wing parties and movements.
Now let me appreciate our guests. We had Robert English, our correspondent, join us from London. We had Stavros Mavroudeas, professor of political economy from University of Macedonia, who joined us out of Athens. And with this, we come to the end of this news review. Thank you for watching.